this is a question I can direct toward Nancy, not expecting any particular response, but, you know, the desires of audiences, sponsors, filmmakers, funders, we all hope converge into one really happy festival event. But there are times, I imagine, when they don't converge and when there are conflicts. I wondered, and many of the programmers actually themselves said they would like to talk about this topic, so have there been instances where you've had to censor a film or been forced to reframe a film, or how do you work with sometimes conflicting needs of the various stakeholders in a festival?
Sure, I'd be happy to answer it. I just wanted to add one last thing, though, to the last question. I always tell people when you're submitting films to festivals to make sure, obviously, that you've filled out the application, that you've included your entry fee and things like that. But I also wanted to say, I used to work as a film publicist, and I remember I would very carefully think about when I was going to call a journalist, because especially print journalists are online and have deadlines at a specific time. So if you want to talk to Jennifer about a film, we live in this community, so we do pay attention to local filmmakers because many of them are our friends or colleagues or people we've known for years or are up and coming, and they're going to be making films that we want to show. So if you want to talk to Jennifer, do not call her in May when her festival is in June. But if you're working on a lesbian and gay film and you want Jennifer to know about it, you might actually even be able to buy her a cup of coffee if you call her in November. So that's actually one really big piece of advice I'd like to give. I'd like to give to filmmakers, because it's not. We're all, we all do this work because we love film, we love cinema, we love, filmmakers, and we're eager to talk to filmmakers and not just talk amongst ourselves or whatever. So now to controversy. I would say that programming a Jewish film festival in this country in this time is probably the hardest programming job you can have, because of the situation in Israel. And I always joke with Chiwei and Jennifer that if you program the Asian Film Festival, there are probably some newer immigrant communities, Laotian, Cambodian, who feel that you're showing too much Chinese or Japanese work. And if you program the Lesbian and Gay Film Festival, maybe there's some intersex folks or transgender folks who feel like you're showing too much, sweater set gay films. And if you program the Jewish Film Festival, there is always someone who hates your guts. So I would say it's enormously challenging. We showed a film this year called Rachel by Simone Biton, who is a woman who was a Moroccan Jew who grew up in Israel and now lives in France. She's Israeli. She's a dual Israeli French citizen. It's about Rachel Corrie, who was the non-Jewish young American activist from the Pacific Northwest who was killed in Gaza protesting Israeli demolition of houses, Palestinian houses, with the international solidarity movement. So Simone made this film. Peter Stein, our executive director, and I saw it in Berlin. We invited it. It's, I think, a very good film. We've shown 2 of Simone Biton's films before Wall and Mahmoud Darwish, which is about a Palestinian poet. And I would say it was well, in the office we said it was a shitstorm. A lot of the Jewish community was very angry because we invited Cindy Corrie, who is Rachel Corrie's mother. So I think it is very hard. I mean, I think you think, sometimes I think no one's paying attention to what I'm doing. No one's paying attention. I mean, you probably felt the same way when there was the film about the butch lesbian who woke up 20 years later and, where were all the butch lesbians? They'd all transitioned, and, this was a huge controversy, I know, for Frameline a couple of years ago. So I think you try to stay solid and pay attention to what your mandate is, which is to show excellent cinema. But it can be very, very stressful for staff. We actually have had some interactions with funders who don't want to fund us anymore. But I would say the Jewish Film Festival, it's nice to get a historic perspective from our board members or former staff, because this has happened over and over again. And I think right now with the Obama election, I think some people in the Jewish community feel like he's not as favorable towards Israel, and then the recent events in Gaza with the white gas bombing. I think it's very difficult for the Jewish community, and understandably so. I think it's there's a feeling of not wanting to air dirty laundry. There are funders who don't, want us to talk about this in public, or, you think, how could it be to invite a person and share information? This is one of the main mandates of any professional film festival. You invite guests who appear in a film. It's very common. It's not polemic. So to invite someone and then have, just a huge, we were basically the target of a viral campaign, and it was interesting because it was on both sides. There were people who said, we love what you're doing, we think it's important to talk about difficult topics, and there were people who said, you're self-hating Jews, and if it had been up to you, there would have been no Jews left after the Holocaust.